What's going on, guys? How to be back, traveling a fair bit back in time for this next Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. A small recap. This was actually the first Fire Emblem game I've ever played, but it wasn't until much later that I actually finished a playthrough of it. But I'll get into that a little bit later. For now, let's dive right into this game. So, Fire Emblem Sacred Stones does not star you at all, but instead, twin siblings Erica and Ephraim having their kingdom of Renes being invaded by the neighboring kingdom of Grotto, home to what the twins thought to be a longtime childhood friend, Leon. Throughout the invasion force, mysterious artifacts are being targeted and destroyed, so it's up to the twins to recruit a variety of people from different country, social, and political backgrounds to repel the Grotto forces and put an end to their evil schemes. Now, while the main plot may be somewhat cliche compared to a lot of other games, I don't think that should be a solitary focus on this because there are a lot of subplots in this game that are actually quite interesting. I won't spoil them too much if case people want to actually play at some point in time, but there is one, and I think people will know, that gave me shivers when I encountered that scenario. Surrounding that is a cast of characters that I found was a fair bit easier to get attached to. One reason for that is that there's a lot less characters to recruit, giving you more chances to have some quality time with them. Another reason being that a lot more of these characters actually hold some stake within the main plot. Many of them are members or rulers of the other countries, and some members get quite a bit of character development before they even join the party, which is always nice to see. The other reason being is that they're all just entertaining characters. Not to say that the later games had uninteresting ones, but that these ones seem more fleshed out, probably because, like I said, they see more involvement within the main plot, not just the twins. Many of these characters have goofy tendencies, quirks and hobbies they hide from others, and tragic backstories that shape who they are. These are probably some of my favorite supporting cast of characters in any Fire Emblem game I've ever played. Now, for being on the Game Boy Advance, animations here are spectacular. The fluid animations are incredible to look at and really showcase the peak performance the handheld was capable of. The close-up shots on characters' faces during conversations is also fairly nice, highlighting the uniqueness of each character besides just their hair color. And this game's music is awesome. It goes to show that despite the restrictions that the Game Boy Advance had, and just how primitive it was, especially compared to what we have now, many companies still found ways to make beautiful music come out of this, and Sacred Stones is no exception. My favorite tracks coming out of this being the main battle theme, aptly named Attack, but above all else, what could arguably be Sacred Stones' main theme, Truth, Despair, and Hope. The overall look of the maps and layouts didn't get quite the same amount of effort put into them, however. Battle backdrops consist of what looks to be a small water-stained painting being put behind the characters, and while the map looks fine, there's a lot of repeats in its overall designs. But to get to each map, there is an actual world map to peruse around. It is quite expansive with lots of opportunities to train on previously accomplished maps, as well as at the Tower of Valny. This place is an awesome training ground of monsters with increasing difficulty, as well as a good chance to re-earn items that are in chests throughout, like weapons and gold. I say that like it's a good thing, however, that in of itself is almost a required sidetrack, at least a few times for first-time players, and maybe even for multiple playthroughs. Weapons breaking is in this game, and it almost feels like it happens a little too fast when trying to train units, which means traveling to shops to buy weapons, and while you're given what appears to be a hefty amount of cash at certain points of the story, with the amount of units you have to buy for, and even the price of most of the items, that money goes fast, so taking the time to visit the tower can help alleviate some of the costly heartache trying to keep your team stocked, but is ultimately just something that trying to grind for just kind of sucks. That being said, I wouldn't go so far as to say this game is hard. The rate as to which weapons break in some maps would make me classify this game more as being tedious, but never hard. I only ever had one unit die, and that was because he got crit by a monster with a 1% critical hit chance on an early level monster route map twice, even after resetting the map over once. I think Arthur was just always destined to die. But in terms of the gameplay, obviously being a predecessor to the acclaimed Awakening, it means that there's less here than in that one. There's still a weapon triangle present, your units can still support, but not actually pair up. What's here that sort of wasn't in the later games was the Fog of War and items pertaining to that. A neat little map effect that restricted what you saw on a specific map. It's not much, but it at least helped give thieves more utility since they were able to sort of expand the Fog of War slightly. In the end though, this game does hold a nice amount of replayability. However, unlike the newer games, it doesn't come in the form of experimenting with different classes on your units. You sort of could think like that here too, but there's a legitimate story purpose behind your replayability. After a certain point in the story, after having everyone together, the twins split up and you have to pick which one you're going to follow for the midpoint of the game, and you take your whole army with them. What's cool is that while the end result will always be the same in terms of where they will all meet up again and what units you acquire, they experience their own form of hardships along the way and recruit specific people along that path that the others won't see until you reunite with them. It may not seem like much, but it does change your main Lord character that you take main control of, and it's always nice to see all the different points of views that a story can take. Calling Sacred Stones the easiest game in the series and a great start for first-timers is a somewhat mixed opinion for me. I think that it might just be one of the best ones and also one of the worst ones to start with at the same time. Its mechanics are simplified compared to later games, and its story is fairly lighter in tone, save for a few instances that don't exhaust you mentally. But its somewhat strict weapons breaking system and the pace to which you can acquire new weapons or money can really bog down the pace to which you want to continue the story. The lighter tone in the story could also be counterintuitive for veterans, since they won't find nearly as intriguing a story as in the other games. Being my first Fire Emblem game I played, all the grinding for the money to make sure I was always armed felt super tedious for me, which turned me away, and even after going through a few Fire Emblems and coming back to this one, it still felt more annoying here than anywhere else. But at the end of the day, I did finish the game. It might be somewhat boring, but it's certainly inoffensive, and I'm happy I did finish it at least, even if it did take a few tries. I'm sorry I don't really have much more to say about it. I know there are a lot of people that really like this game. I was just kind of on the fence about it for the most part, I guess. It was just nice that I at least was able to get Joshua before he killed Natasha. Hey, Joshy, check out the pretty girl. Okay then. But anywho, thanks everyone for watching, and the next time we tackle a Fire Emblem, we jump back to the present with a jump to mobile Fire Emblem Heroes. Until then, I will see you guys later.